On this episode of the John 1911 Podcast, the Ranger Band defense. Make sure your gun fits. Bobcats on the prowl, and it's not going to lick itself. Okay, good evening, everybody. This is Kraken and Marky, and this is episode 342 of the John 1911 Podcast. Today is July the 12th, 11:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so this is Friday. And as promised, we are doing podcasts on a more regular basis. And so instead of going out on a Friday night and howling at the moon or whatever that bar you used to go to, when you were in the Navy, which I wish you would tell that story on pod. We're old men on podcasts on the computer. So I would love for you to tell that story on pod. Can you tell that? Or is everybody not quite retired yet?
Maybe not tonight. There may still be my Orkin police looking for me on that one.
All right.
It's only been 40 years.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I guess we'll just talk about, whatever stuff. So, so
Next
I
time I'll
guess,
tell that story.
yeah. What was it I wanted to um talk about? It was the so we haven't talked about this on pod, but did you remember the story? There was a story where there was we didn't talk about it where SIG was found liable. Did we talk about that on pod, or we talk about that on just on the phone?
No, we just talked about that on the phone.
Okay, because we're so behind on everything.
Yeah.
Do you know if SIG has appealed that yet? The 320 boom thing?
The last thing I heard was they were planning to appeal. I don't know if they've officially filed the appeal yet.
I couldn't help but notice that there's a bunch of Navy SEALs. They're SEAL Team 6 guys. They run a training group out of Virginia. Obviously, it's like where they all are. And they do shooting. They do some shooting videos and trainings. And so there's a couple of them, and I'm sure most of a considerable number of our viewers and listeners will know who these people are, probably more than I do. And they used to always shoot. It seemed like to me, I don't see their stuff all the time. They were always shooting P320s. And I've noticed as of late, like I saw a video today, they're shooting staccatos now, or at least they were at least one time. And I just was kind of like, I don't know. Are they not shooting 320s because they're getting afraid of them, or are they shooting staccatos because they're having students showing up with them in classes, or just they don't seem like they're 1911 type people, and I thought it was an odd choice. I thought it was odd to see them not shooting staccatos, and I thought it was odd to see or not shooting 320s, and I thought it was odd to see them shooting anything that was 1911 2011 esque. So.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to get a feel for if the stink is really starting to stick to the 320 or not. It's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, I know KDF's been shooting staccatos for several years now.
Kyle DeFore or no? Who's
Yeah.
KDS?
Yeah. KDF
Okay, yeah,
Kyle DeFore.
yeah, KDF, yeah,
He's been shooting staccatos for several years now, so that dog may not hunt there on the 320s, but
yeah.
uh if it's somebody else you're thinking of, I don't know then, but
Well, Kyle DeFore, I think
I don't
he was on the Staccato's training cadre, I believe, at one point,
yeah, yeah.
or one of their influencers, if I recall,
Yep.
maybe, kind of.
Yeah, he was pimping them pretty hard. He was running a lot of C2s, and he was going through one or two a year, so he was pretty high volume shooter.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a 2011 person. I'm not. I just I have some problems with the 2011. I don't like. What really fucks those guns up are the magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I know that Staccato has upgraded the magazine. But even then, even that upgraded magazine is still too fat.
for the 9 millimeter round. So it just makes those guns just ridiculously big. And I think eventually, I know that Staccato was probably going to start doing this. They were going to make a smaller magazine that's 9 millimeter
Yeah.
specific, which means you're going to have a bunch of people with 2011s with newer guns coming from Staccato where the magazines aren't going to be backwards compatible and the guns aren't going to be backwards compatible. And that's going to cause quite a bit of heartburn for a lot of people. So it's just going to be, it's going to be interesting to see some of that too. But um, it reminds me also, I saw a video. I've seen an unusual amount of videos lately because I don't really see a lot of social media stuff. Oh God, Mr. Guns and Gear guy went to went to is it Honest Outlaw guy, YouTube guy? So it's like the Mr. Guns and Gears, he's pretty well known. And then there's this Honest Outlaw guy, and I think he's taller. I mean, I'm 6'1". I think this guy's like 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", or something. He's apparently a very large man. But apparently they were shooting this gold-plated 1911 from a company I think called Fusion,
Hmm.
possibly. And or maybe it was, I can't remember what it was called. Maybe the model's called Fusion. But anyway, they're shooting this gun. It's like a $10,000 gun. It's a 2011, and it's got this built-in porting. And you just look at this gun, just the way they're even working the slide, and I'm like, that gun looks undersprung. And they're shooting this gun on video and it's choking and choking. But it's okay. It's choking. It's okay. It must have choked 4 or 5 times. Yeah, it's like, there's some ammo and it's like you can almost tell just, if you're slightly educated about 1911s, it's just like, man, they've got some goofy, like, 7 or 9 pound spring in this thing, it's just because they want it to stay totally flat and it's just undersprung. And I'm thinking of that because I remember the first time I ever shot a staccato pistol, Officer Mike let me borrow one that he had picked up, and it was at the time it was called STI. And I don't know their models. Like I couldn't tell you a staccato model to save my life, but it was one of those guns where uh, uh, it had the like a muzzle brake built into the slide.
Yeah.
And this gun, I mean, I think it had like a 7 pound recoil spring in it. Like, I was like, I mean, I've got it on video, and I was like, I mean, it ran. It was like, okay, it's like, I guess all the cops are getting 1911s again, 2011s now. It's like, are we doing this? And he let me borrow this gun, and I'm just thinking, this is retarded. I mean, I told him, I was like, dude, I said, you cannot carry this on duty with this goofy ass fucking spring in it. It's like, I mean, even as a SWAT officer, I'm just like, dude, you've got to upgrade the spring. And they do it, these companies, they do some of this stuff because they can get that 30-second video clip. But man, like some of what these companies do, these 2011s, I think it's criminal. I mean, I just
Yeah.
think the entire space is just,
Well, if
ugh.
you remember, I went down the 2011 road with Staccato there for a while. I was fairly deep into them. And one of the things, what,
Did
just,
you sell them? Do you not have your
yeah,
staccatos in it?
I got out of them altogether. That
I
big
didn't know
blocky
that.
grip. Yeah, that big blocky grip. Uh,
That's why you showed up with all the Wilsons.
yep. I
I
saw the
didn't. I didn't.
light.
I didn't put two and two together.
I saw the light. Uh, but yeah, I got out of Staccato altogether. Part of it was just I got my hands on a Wilson and it was like, oh my God, just night and day difference in feel and grip comfort and natural point aim, bringing it up. Uh, but part of it was just, I guess the way to say it is the staccato culture. There's several Facebook pages I was on that were, staccato related pages. And the whole thing with staccato. It seemed like was number one, how much money can we spend putting aftermarket crap on it before we've even shot it the first time? And then all we're going to do is brag and post videos about how fast we can do a mag dump and how there's no muzzle rise at all. So, we're putting gas pedals on them and changing out the Chile grips and putting a little 7-pound springs and making bunny fart loads and doing an 18 round mag dump in, 2.3 seconds or whatever. But, the thing I noticed was they took a $2,500 pistol, put another $2,500 in it before they'd even shot it, posted a video of a really fast mag dump with no muzzle rise, but you never heard them clanging steel and they never showed you the target. And I just got shit full of that really fast, and then I got my hands on a Wilson, and it was just such night and day difference. And so between the culture and just the difference in craftsmanship, I was just done with them. I got rid of them. They were easy to move up here, so off
Oh
they
yeah.
went.
I mean, Staccato, it gets a lot of credit for. I would give them a lot of credit for getting law enforcement into the 2011 world. They decided they were going to make a 2011 that you could use for duty, and they were able to. I think it was the Marshals, U.S. Marshals, one of their TAC teams adopted it, and once whomever it was, whatever that team was that adopted it first, and it was like, whoa, like someone's adopted a 2011, really? Like I can't, and like people today really just don't appreciate what I'm about to say. I cannot. I'm John 1911. I'm a 1911 guy. I mean, I'm carried 1911 for most of 19 years working. Um, I've hit people with a 1911. I mean, I love 1911s. And, when there was a big push for us to go to like 9 millimeters and more capacity, the 2011 back then was a no-go. The 2011 was a dumpster fucking fire of a gun. People just don't understand. Like you could literally, you'd be shooting that gun, you drop a mag to do a reload, you put the new mag in, the mag you dropped on the ground is probably out of action for the rest of the day. Or if like any mag ever hit the ground, you got to take it apart and you got to scrub it. And even then, like you got to tune them. I mean, it was just crazy. Crazy how unreliable these guns were. And, you know, especially a 9 millimeter. And so, I mean, what Staccato has done, you gotta give it to them. Like they've done a real good job. I mean, like all these people are into these 2011s. The 2011 is definitely a resurgence, but you can already see Staccato is starting to turn the ship towards the same issues that Wilson had decided to do. Wilson never made a 2011. Not that I can speak for Wilson, but I'm moderately familiar with their product line. I
Yeah.
mean, never publicly made a 2011. And, the 2011 and 9 millimeter, it's stupid fat. They're unreliable. The mags are dumpster fire. And 9 millimeter, it's the dual radial lugs. They're over lugged. And then just getting them to be reliable and function for duty, you got to make a lot of changes. And so you're starting to see, eventually, you're going to see all these 2011 companies, I think, start to experiment slowly. They're going to start to migrate closer to the Wilson X9 guns. And the first indication of that is the magazines. Staccato has announced that they're going to do, some kind of magazine. I don't know what Kimber's got some kind of double stack 1911 they've made. I don't even know what magazine they use for that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a 2011 at all. That could be its own, because if you can go with a smaller magazine, you can go with a smaller grip. And that's the fundamental issue with the 2011 for a lot of people. Like, I mean, I'm 6'1". I have fairly large hands. I say I have large-ish hands. Like I can wear like typically large size gloves are too small. I get extra large size XL gloves. Um, I mean, I have no problems really. Like I can operate a 2011. I'm never as comfortable with my thumb, reaching around that frame and the safety, and I have long hands. I would venture to guess 40% of everybody out there that are gun consumed, 40% of the population probably could not physically operate a 2011. They're so fat. You know what I mean? You're a smaller statured
Yeah.
person, you're a female, you just person has small hands, and it's just there's all just all kinds of problems with that gun. For a magazine that footprint of that magazine, they just inherited it from Chip McCormick and Stryer Voigt or whatever, SVI, STI, and Chip McCormick, because they made that magazine for 45 ACP.
Yeah.
And so they stuck with all of that. And it's just terrible. So, but anyway,
I couldn't shit on staccato, as far as function and reliability. It was all grip size with me. I've got big ham hock hands, and I could get to the safety no problem without having to adjust my grip. But I do not like trying to rotate the pistol in my hand to get to like a slide release. So I always use my offhand. There was no way without a big shift in my hand of being able to get to the slide release. So I would have to use my offhand. And the grip was just so big and bulky that uh, if I didn't get on the gun just perfectly, sometimes I couldn't get the grip safety to engage enough to be able to fire it.
oh, yes, I haven't forgot about the grip safety.
So that's why I moved. That's why I got out of them.
Yeah, I typically use my support hand on 1911s to work the slide stops. But see, the Wilson gun, those guns don't have a grip safety.
Yep.
So you don't have to worry about, fouling that draw, like if you're in some weird position, like, you're just like you're on the ground or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's another thing, with those guns.
Yeah.
So I
Now
just, again,
on the X9, I can get to the slide release with my strong hand. I don't have to use my offhand on it.
I can
Just
too.
because there's that
Yeah.
much difference in the grip.
Yeah, I use my support hand, but I mean, I'm perfectly willing and capable of operating it with my strong hand. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not a problem. I mean, I can work it ambidextrously.
Yep.
Um, it's really interesting. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I've been so busy with all the construction. Again, we're in the middle of July now. And this has been going on forever. I'm at the range now, and if I had time, Wilson has done that. They've got a new they've got the X9 2.0, which has different grip handles, which doesn't really interest me too much. I mean, it wouldn't be enough of an upgrade on the gun that I've got. But, they did come out with basically a ported or like a comped barrel. So it's still like the 4-inch slide, but it's got it's got a muzzle device built into the barrel that sticks out. So the gun I don't think the gun's quite 5 inches. I think but it's longer than 4. And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I would be super curious to shoot that gun from retention and see if it blasts me in the face. You know what I mean? Just because I think so much of the X9 guns. Porting on guns isn't something I generally like, or muzzle devices as well. But I mean, I'd be open to it. But I just haven't had time to dick with it.
Yeah.
Just to shoot the gun from retention. You know what I mean? Like I like my 5-inch gun. So
I have one ported pistol, and that simply is I wanted the pistol bad enough I could overlook the porting, and it wasn't obnoxiously huge porting. I haven't carried a ported gun since I had a Springfield Armory V10, and I
that's going
was
back.
yeah, uh, and I was retention shooting that and pretty much laser engraved my side. And after that, that some bitch went down the road, and I've never looked back.
But you know what? I remember those guns. Look, you got to get Springfield. I remember those guns and advertisements in the magazines. Man, that looked good. It did. It looked good. I remember being like, "Damn, that looks awesome." The way they like they were
Hmm.
weren't they mostly stainless?
No, all mine were that matte finished. I had
I mean,
I had the commander length, and then I had the officer model too.
yeah, let's see here. Springfield V10. Let's see here. Yeah.
And
Oh,
the
they
porting
okay.
did a good job. They were very shootable. They blind you at night, so I worked up loads with lower flash powder, but boy, they did tame recoil. My
Yeah.
ex-wife was only 4'10", and she could just rip that little officer's model like nobody's business. Uh, there were just too many drawbacks with the porting for me to keep with them.
Yeah. They were cool guns back in the day. I
Well,
just remember the ads looked real good. I mean, I didn't know what I didn't know back then. It's like,
yeah. Well, it was
I
the
mean,
newest, latest grade. It was the first what I consider a factory carry pistol that was ported and ran reliably. And uh, but when you start doing, and people don't think of retention shooting, they're like, ported, you lose a bunch of recoil. It's going to be faster, flatter shooting. It's cool, has curb appeal. Ouch, that hurts.
yeah, where I
But
used to
but they never
work,
think of the ouch that hurts ahead of time.
yeah, we had the shoot from retention, and we had to teach it. And it's like any of those ported guns. I mean, they're fine. I would certainly, if you have one, if you again, I would even do it with this new Wilson gun they've got out. First thing I mean, shoot it, break it in, whatever. But then I'd be right out there at the range, and I'd be like, high thumb pectoral index, leaning over, and I'd be shooting that from retention and see. I'd wear eye protection and
Oh yeah,
see if it blasts the shit out of you. Or if it blasts, maybe it's not comfortable, but it's tolerable, and in a self defense shooting. But I would suggest the first time you ever shoot one of those guns from attention is it when you need to do it for real. You know what I mean? It's good.
yeah.
Go to the range and figure that shit out. I remember there was I was this guy. He was two down. What was he shooting? I think he was shooting 357 Sig, and this I think the gun even might have had porting on it from it had ported or some shit on it. And this gun, I mean, it was blasting people on either side of him. It
Yep.
was blast. I mean, like you'd hear a whole line of people training, but then like that one guy in the line, it was like 40% louder. Boom, boom. And it's like, he is eating that shit. I was like, oh man. It's like, we started kind of like rotating people around him. And and he was not having a good time. It's like, yeah, well,
Was he shooting one of those Glocks when they first came out with top ported Glocks back about, oh, I don't know, oh five,
I
oh
think
six,
it
somewhere
I
around,
think
because
it
those
must
were
have
ungodly loud.
yeah, it was a 357 Sig, and I don't know if it was factory ported. I don't know if Sig ever ported. I don't remember. I didn't pay that much attention to
Yeah.
Glocks back then, especially if it wasn't like a normal Glock. Like the only Glocks I paid attention to were, the Glock 22, Glock 23, which I hated the 23, Glock 17, Glock 19, Glock 26, and then like the Model 20, the 10 millimeter.
Mhm.
Like once they got, I knew what the 21 was because, I was a 1911 guy shooting 45. So it's like, hey, I get the big 13 round 45 Glock. It's like, there you go, because I'm 45. But once you got off into the ether with all those, I didn't know. I couldn't tell one from the other. Like, a
Yeah.
Glock, a Glock 20, a Glock 29 or a Glock 30. I'm like, I don't know what caliber that is. I have to look it up. But it was 357 SIG, and it was ported, and it was blasting the shit out of him. I mean, it was
And I,
like blowing his clothes around.
oh yeah. See,
It's
when
like,
Glock did that, they didn't. I don't. If I recall right, they didn't make like a new model number for their ported model. They just added a C.
oh,
If
that's right, they
so,
did.
it was
There, I
like
do
a
remember the C.
22C, but it was
Yeah.
ungodly big ports on the top of the slide, which I thought was just incredibly stupid because if you got to shoot it at night, there goes your night vision right there. I mean, the muzzle, the flash was just horrible.
Well, the
Uh,
customer wanted it, so they gave it to him.
but we had a couple local officers. They just, newest, latest, greatest Glock, so they had to snatch onto it. And I don't think either one of the guys kept them more than about 3-4 months, and they moved them right along too for the same reasons. Just it cuts the recoil down, but the flash and the noise and retention shooting was a little dicey.
Yeah, it was just. I mean, look. I mean, not that
They're
I,
just
I,
not
I
ported stuff to me. Just isn't good for carry.
well, I thought the Glocks back then were kind of weird for me. And here again, because I'm a 1911 guy, and again, I even tried to carry a Glock for a little while, but for some of the shit I was doing, and getting away with it, like I needed safeties on. I needed external safeties. There was just no way,
Mm,
really trying to sneak guns around and do things. Like there was just no way I was going to get away with this. I was going to end up, with some kind of accident. But I had a Glock 23. Because, like, yeah, get the Glock 23. It's like, everyone's got the Glock 22. Just get the small one. To this day, I hate the 23. That gun, I'd shoot that gun. That gun would wear me the fuck out. I was just like, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like, guys that are like, yeah, I shoot a Glock 23. What's the problem, pussy? It's like, yeah, I mean, it's fine. I get it. It's not a big deal. Shoot it for 3 days straight in a training cycle.
yeah,
I mean, like, by the end of the first day, your hands are like, man, I kind of feel that. And
yeah.
then the
Because those
second day, you're
23s are
like,
whippy as shit.
I mean, what was so crazy about the 23, and I swear this is true, and they changed it when they changed I think they had issues with some of the original 40 caliber guns, and so they upgraded the springs. So, but the original 40 caliber guns, I swear to you, the Glock 23 recoiled harder than my Glock 27, which was the subcompact 40. I was like, I mean, the 20, something about that 23 just would thump the shit out of me.
Yep.
And then,
Yeah,
then
they
it got to
beat you
be,
up good.
then it'd be psychological, and I'd be like, I'd start shooting a gun. I'd be a couple mags in, doing stuff, and I'm like, I hate this fucking thing, because it was more because I just knew what I was in for, and I'm like, man, this sucks. And I shot 45s all the time. Just
Uh,
something about that 23, and I could shoot the 27 at 23, but it's like that 40, that Glock 23 for me did me in on 40. Like did
yeah.
me in. I thought 40 sucked 20, 15 years, well, no, 20 years before everyone else thought it sucked. It was that Glock 23. I didn't know I was like, I don't know, I was Nostradamus or something. But man, I was like, I mean, I'm not saying like you only need to, like guns that you're carrying for work have to be enjoyable, but you know what? They can't be. I mean, you just can't be agony either. You know what I mean? It's just like, and I never forgot that because it was a good lesson because it's easy for big guys like me and for like, ugh, big gun, what are you, pussy? And it's like, I remember, you'd see these people coming through and, I've told the story before about we had this girl, a woman, this is a police officer. She come through
The
and
P7.
yeah, and she's works for this department that has more money than sense. And they've got this gun guy that's like their training director, training officer, okay? And he's a gun guy. And so he's decided that his department, because he's got the pool and he's a gun nerd, he's got all these cops carrying these P7 squeeze cockers. And, it's like, okay, like we get it. Like, again, this was 25 years ago. And it's like, I get it. We all get it. That's cool. Man, how cool was that? That's what we would all do. I mean, in some way, people make
Mm-hmm.
mistakes, but then I remember this girl, for the listener who doesn't know, so I can't even remember, but like she was having issues with her. She was standing there and like, we were between drills, and she had ice in her hand, and she had her gun out of her holster. And it's like she was like holding the ice up against her hand with her gun with the slide locked back. And I thought she was injured. I was like, does she have an injury? Does whatever? And I come up, I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Did you hurt? You need a band-aid or something? Like, because we were kind of, we were heating them up. Like, it's early. It's like, it's not even lunch the first day. So, we shoot probably about 2 hours. And because I'm not even seeing her for what's really going on. I'm like, oh yeah, she's probably not used to shooting a lot, probably getting blisters. She's just this is the most training she's ever done, and she's like, my gun is so hot, and I'm like, what do you mean? She's got ice. She's like, my gun is so hot. I'm like, let me see your gun. She handed me her gun, and I almost fucking dropped it. It was so hot. I was like, what the fuck? And because I just, I didn't even, at the time when this happened, I'm not going to say that I was like so smart. Like, I didn't know that a P7 was a gas piston driven gun. Like, I couldn't have told you. And even if someone had said, oh, it's a piston driven gun, gas piston, even if I had repeated that to you, I would have not really have understood what the downline effects of that would mean for the shooter if you're shooting this gun. If you're shooting this gun, a whole shit ton. And it's like, this is her duty weapon. Like, she's in full utility belt, and this is in-service training. She is
Mm-hmm.
she is on the clock getting paid to be at this place. And it was like, what the fuck? And she'd been dying, and it's because some gun guy, somebody, it was like someone like just like me and many of the listeners, because it's about what we want and not really what's best for the average person. And so I look at like the P7, and I'm like, this is not a duty pistol. And I look at like the staccato. I'm not going to say it's not a duty pistol, or the 2011. I'm not going to say it's not a duty pistol. Well, I should probably say staccato, because a lot of 2011s are not duty pistols. What I'm going to say is staccato. The 2011 has the same has one fundamental flaw that H&K pistols have, and Glock pistols have. H&K was real bad for this, and Glock is kind of bad. I think it's part of the reason why Glock didn't get the service pistol contract, is they're too big for about 40% of the population. And it's not a problem, you know, for Navy SEALs or guys that work at John 1911 or SWAT officers or, guy gun enthusiasts. But we live in a world where you've got 5'4", white collar crime people that work at police departments. You've got, 100-pound women working, in the army, and so a lot of these guns, they sometimes they don't work as good service pistols because they don't work for a wide variety of people. And if you're going to have a police department or an army, you got to, especially today, it's not all just men and big men. It's more reflective of modern times. And this, and if shit doesn't fit people, like, you know the gun, the gun gets way too hot to shoot, or the 2011 is way too big for the small statured person. Um, it's or the Glock 23 for me. The Glock 23, like I couldn't imagine, you know, like some small statured person, or just, it could be a guy, it could be a girl, it doesn't matter. Someone who's not a 245-pound guy like me, who's like, hey, welcome to the department or welcome to the organization. Here's the gun. Here's your duty gun, because we're going to tell you, you're going to be voluntold what you're going to fucking carry. And it's like, you can have the 22 or the 23. She's like, well, I'll take the 23 because it's smaller. And, she trying to shoot that gun all day for a qualification or through an academy. It's like, that gun sucks ass, for like
Yeah.
high volume shooting, and like to get good enough to be really good. And a lot of this stuff people don't think about. Just because it works for you doesn't mean it works for an entire organization. And that's where a lot of this falls apart. Like
Well,
we saw one. Okay, I'm talking too much anyway. Go ahead.
that point you just made is exactly how 40 Slow and Weak came to be. Because all 40 Smith and Wesson goes clear back to the Miami-Dade bank robbery shootout. And the FBI decided 9mm didn't have enough monkey to it. So they adopted the Smith & Wesson 1076.
Which
And
is a crazy big ass gun.
Yeah, it's that's their compact model. So you're still at a 4-inch barrel. So it was similar in barrel length to their 59, but the grip is it's single stack, but it's just long and kind of weird shaped if you don't have a real big hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then you stuff a 10mm in there, and you've got a handful. Well, that's great for somebody like me. I love my Smith 10mm, love them to pieces. But you got the 5'1" Asian FBI agent going through the academy, and it was just too much gun.
I
And the
mean,
powers that be went 9mm not going to work. We've been down that road, so basically the 40 Smith and Wesson's just 10mm short, and they could put it in a little smaller frame gun, and there you go, Glock 22s and 23s.
well, okay, and I want to say this too, because a lot of people be like, oh, back in the day, like I believe that, like as an example, I believe like cops should be able to fight. You know what I mean? If you're not big enough to be
Oh
able to
yeah.
fight, I don't know if you should be a cop. I'm just, and that's not politically correct, but it's the truth. But I'm not, see, people on the internet, they want to get in these goofy, weird, like, put downs. And it's like, well, little lady and, whatever, like little guy. It's like, okay, cool story, bro. How tall was Audie Murphy? Was he like 5'2" or 5 feet tall? How
He was
tall was How tall was
yeah.
Chesty Puller? So I mean, like this argument that people that are smaller stature can't do or be the job is not the argument I'm making. I'm just talking about the equipment. The shit's got to fit them. Like you didn't have Audie Murphy running around in a uniform for someone that was 6'5".
Yeah.
It's like shit's got to fit the boy. Did I
Well,
ever tell you the story? Did I ever tell you the story about the other H&K? This is kind of like why I used to be really down on H&K. Did I ever tell you about the cop that came through? It was a different department, and it was the exact same thing as the P7 people. They had money. They had their cadre that was their training people. Their training officer or whatever it was, and got these cops had H&Ks. I can't remember what the H&K was, but this was long before anyone ever heard of the VP9. Okay, so it was like, where'd you get the VP9? It's like, well, this was H&K H&K would have thought a VP9 striker fired gun with adjustable size grips, hammerless. That was sacrilege. I mean, that was apostasy to them. And so it was, I know the gun was not. I know the gun. This girl. It was a woman. I think it was a woman. Was it a guy? I think this was a woman. It was a woman. It was a woman. And I'll tell you why. Because I think it played a factor into it. Because she was a woman, she didn't want to like be like, hey, even like Audie Murphy would have been like, what the fuck? This goddamn gun didn't fucking fit me, assholes. So this woman, she went through an academy. She was hired by a police department. She shot qualifications, was hired on patrol. She shows up at our facility being paid for by her department. So it's in-service training. She's getting paid to be there. Shows up, she's got fancy gear, she's got H&K gun. I can't remember what the gun was. It was not a Mark 23, which is the big giant pistol. It wasn't that gun. But whatever this gun was, I'm some kind of USP, I don't know what it was. This gun was so big for her. The only way she could reach the trigger, like if let's just say you're going to shoot one-handed, she had to slide her fingers forward and hold the back of the gun with her thumb.
Ooh.
And it was instantly we saw this on the line. And it's like, stop, ceasefire, come here. What's going on? And you talk to this girl, and it's like, that's the way, and you're like, realize this gun doesn't fit her. That's the only way she can reach this trigger on this gun. We called that department and we spoke to that command staff and we said, your ass is in a sling here because you hired this woman, you issued her this gear, she's shooting qualifications, someone's signing off on this, and she's on the street and nobody caught this or they approved it. And when this goes sideways and something bad happens to her or somebody else, you're all fucking done. And you know it. It was terrible. And it was some gun guy at some fucking PD, H&K. Maybe he gets to meet the H&K rep, and maybe he gets discounts, or maybe he gets to slide himself on H&K too. And it was like another one of these guys that's like, you selfish fucks. What are you thinking? And people, when you hear stories about like the police department doesn't care about you, the police department, doesn't this and that, and you're like, yeah, yeah, and then you see shit like this, it is scary. I mean,
Yeah.
this was crazy town. Like, if this woman had actually had to draw this gun, she would draw this gun out of her holster and have to switch her hand on this gun. She was carrying this on the street.
Oh, man.
She was certified. And so that's why, I've seen enough of this where I get real. I kicked, people are like, oh, Marky doesn't like the 2011 or Marky doesn't like this, and people can say that, like, I don't like this, I don't like that. But, I, I'm a huge, I'm a huge dick about shit not fitting with guns. And especially in the world we live in today, are you kidding me? You can't find a gun to fit somebody.
Oh, yeah.
There's no excuse. Like, dude, when in the 80s, I mean, it was like, a Smith and Wesson, or I mean, it was a 1911, a high power, a 59 series Smith and Wesson, or a revolver. And
Pretty much, yeah.
today it's, you can get modular guns. You can get custom guns. You can make them big. You can make them small. You can make them pink. You can make them blue. You can do all kinds of shit with these things. You can make them left-handed. You can literally, if you absolutely had to, if for some reason, even if it was like, this is crazy to spend this kind of money, if you absolutely had to, you could buy an all left-handed gun for that one person because, like, well, they fucking have to have a left-handed gun, so they get the one gun that's left-handed. I mean, nobody would do that, but you could do it. There is no excuse for
Yeah.
anybody to be carrying a gun today that doesn't fit their hands. And I'm a super dick on that. I'm a super prick about it. Because if a gun doesn't fit someone's hand, it's just it's just a train wreck. It's like don't even fire any shots. Don't even, you know.
If
Everyone
I
used to be like, oh, yeah, go ahead. I'm
if
talking
I
too
if
much. Go
I would
ahead.
have learned that lesson years ago, I would have saved a lot of money. Uh, because I would fall into that when the USPs first came out. Oh shit, gotta have one of them. It's HK, and it was
That's
like,
probably what
oh,
that girl had.
this is yeah, this is ungodly big, and I like I can carry big guns and I have big hands, and it had curb appeal, so I bought it on curb appeal, but it didn't really have function for me, and the grip was just so big on it, and then the way they do their mag release, that runs kind of parallel to the trigger guards in the front of the grip. Uh,
Yeah, I think
I
those
just
are. I
had a
think
hard,
yeah, those paddle mag releases. I think they're genius.
but on that particular gun, it didn't fit me. On my VP9 I had, it was awesome, but on the USP, again, I would have to actually shift my grip or use my offhand to get to it,
Oh,
and the gun just didn't fit. It just didn't pull up nice. It didn't come out of the holster clean for me. So I found myself, a lot of times adjusting my grip mid draw stroke, and
yeah.
that's a
That's a
train wreck anytime you're trying to do that. But it was really fucking cool right up till it wasn't.
Yeah, I'll
Uh,
tell you what, you made a good point, and it's person at home listen to this. And this goes for whether you're like a noob gun person or you're like a gun expert, or even if you're like a training person. If if you're we call it the master grip, if you reach for that gun and you pull that gun out and that the way your hand lands on that gun is not the way your hand is going to be on that gun when you fire it, that is a huge huge red flag. Like that is a fatal flaw. That is a full stop. Something has to change. You have to change your grip and change your draw, or you got to change your gun. But you cannot have that. And if you're an instructor or you're the training officer for your little small department, you have to have enough wherewithal to recognize when you see that on your people and you're like, oh, what, Bob? What's going on there? Are your hand moving? Are you adjusting your grip? And you got to be like, I mean, you have to get on that, and like again, or you end up with a girl because she's new, she's the department, and here's the gun, and I have to qualify, and she's literally rotating her thumb around, crazy,
yeah.
crazy.
and on
H&K
on
guns.
and adding on to that, my biggest pet peeve on that is, and another reason why I got away from the staccatos, you're not fixing that master grip issue by putting a big rubber band on the grip safety. And you see so many staccatos, they call them ranger bands. But there's so many guys that the gun's just physically too big for their hand. It doesn't fit them. So they run into a lot of, I'll just put a ranger band on it and basically disable the grip safety. And then you get into the pissing contest. The original 1911 didn't have a grip safety anyway, so no big deal. Well, that's not the point. You're not fixing the issue. You're just literally putting a band-aid on it.
Well, the problem is what you run into with, and I've seen, I'm not going to say who it is. Again, like I'm not Jesus, okay? Like, and I'm not, I'm in nobody's universe. Am I the most important person that people need to listen to? But I have been in the presence of a very famous Delta Force member who has a ton of combat experience. and this person likes to stick that shit on his guns. And, it's like, okay, I just ignored that. He was advocating it. He does it. I think he even sells the shit for it, which is fine. But, like, I've seen when people, they slip, like, inner tube shit on it or rubber bands. And
Mhm.
what ends up happening when the shit goes sideways, that band starts to move, or that whatever you've put on there, and all of a sudden you're in a situation where your magazine drops out of your gun because the band has slipped over it, or you can't get the magazine out of the gun because the band has slipped over the button. You know what I mean? Or you see these what it is, and it's like, well, that doesn't happen to me, or that or another happen. It's one of those situations where shit starts to happen that you've never seen before, and it happens. But the first time it happens is the first time it happens. And so I'm not an advocate of pinning grip safeties. I think you should sensitize the grip safety and, make other changes to the gun. But if you're to the point that you're putting a band on your grip safety versus pinning the grip safety, I would go with pinning the grip safety. I
Mhm.
would, because that shit can, slides around. It's wet, it's hot, it's humid, it's bloody, and shit starts sliding around and starts getting fouled up, and it's starts blocking weird things, or weird things are happening. It's just I think it'd be, in the long term, I think it'd be safer to pin the grip safety than ever put a Ranger band or
Yeah.
bicycle inner tube on the grip of your gun. And here's the thing, and I'm talking about dudes that do that they'll do it on guns without grip safeties. And I'm like, I'm not for that. I'm thinking, you could, like, I with the VP9, I took a epoxy and media and pumice, like, for like a pumice that you can buy, like it, so like for media for, like, tumbling shit, but it's like super aggressive. And I epoxied a bunch of that shit to the VP9 because, like, that's never coming off. You know what I mean? Like, it may come off in, like, little pieces, like, oh, a little granule here and there, but it was like skateboard. It's like it wasn't skateboard tape. It was like skateboard rock on that gun. Like, I would never, like, you see these companies that do, like, is it Talon grips that do the sticky grips that they put
Yep.
on these guns?
Yep.
I've never, in full disclosure, I've never used that product, but I've seen people that have used similar products, at least back in the old days, and it would just start peeling off. And so then it's wrapping around, getting under the trigger guard, behind the trigger, it's hanging off the gun, and it's like, I mean, maybe the stuff's better now, but I'm like, I don't want, if I put something on that gun, it's got to stay on that gun. That's my rule. Like, it can't just peel off or slide around because it's not safe. You end up
Yep.
with like 320.
Well, and at the end of the day, if you get right down to it, you're trusting your life to a rubber band.
Well, you're going to end up in court one day, and Sig Sauer is telling you that their 320 is fine. It's your fucking Ranger band that caused the problem.
Yeah.
It's the Ranger band defense.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not us. It's your stupid Band-Aid.
Your skateboard tape came off and wedged up in the slide rail, and that's why it jammed. And you know, you got bullet holes in you, and the bad guy didn't that day, so you can't sue us.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't put skateboard tape on your gun; it might work better. It's crap like that. In theory, it's like, well, it's cool. That's a good idea. That's going to add some gription, and for the guy that shoots 50 rounds a month, it probably works just fine. But if you're shooting high volume, or if you're gonna use it as a self defense carry gun, you're trusting your life to band aids instead of correcting whatever issue it is you have with that gun.
Well, look, I'm open to trying anything. Like, if somebody comes like, "Hey, Marky, here's a roll of tape. that looks like it's super, it's super aggressive glue on the back, and it's like giant, the most aggressive skateboard tape on top. Why don't you put this on the grip of some of your guns? They're like, okay. And they're like, okay, like it's super grippy. I'll give that a shot. But the thing is, if I do it and I like it, I'm like, man, this is awesome. I have to be humble enough and honest enough, in August, and it's like, you're out doing whatever it is you're doing and you're shooting, or it's hot and it's sweaty or it rained, and you look at your gun and you see that shit's starting to slide around. You have to be humble enough to be like, well, I like it, but this isn't working. It's got to come off because it's already coming off. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? You got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and be like, nah, this isn't working. This is a stop. You're not going to do this
Yeah.
anymore. So I'm all for trying stuff.
Yep.
I'd love, but,
But you try it on the range. You put it through its paces to the point of failure, if you can get it to fail on the range before you put it into your carry rotation. And that's the mistake that people make. They'll slap the
yeah,
skateboard tape and go run 100 rounds at the indoor range and go, yep, that's really good. That feels great. And put it right in their carry rotation. And, without seeing if it's going to hold up, if it's going to fail, what it's going to do if it gets wet in a rainstorm, that kind of stuff.
but you have to be honest too with your situation and your limitations. I mean, look, someone could call me a hypocrite right now, and I'm gonna give them the vector of attack on how to do this. I'm not carrying the X9 right now. I'm actually carrying a single stack iron sighted Wilson Experior for a very specific reason. There's nothing wrong with the X9 gun, the X9L. It's got an SRO on it. I carry that SRO every day until like about 5 weeks ago. For a number of years now,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone knows that the SRO red dot is quote not duty rated. So, you could use my logic that I was talking about, you know, shit not being safe or whatever on a gun. And you could be like, I would never carry that because it's not duty rated. And it's like, well, okay, yeah, you have a point. Maybe I wouldn't carry an SRO red dot in a 3 o'clock level 3 retention holster if I'm trying to break up bar fights at the local university, strip of bars. You know what I mean? Like you can have you're allowed some leeway to make informed decisions. Like I'm not saying if you put the Ranger band on your 2011 grip safety that it's suicide. It's like it's not, probably get away with it. Probably. You know what I mean? And most
Mm-hmm.
people don't shoot as much as I do and don't do as much as I do. They're probably going to be fine. As a matter of fact, that guy will show up and be like, I've done this for 20 years, never had a problem. And it's like, yeah, okay. But, when it rains, you know, do you stay out in the rain? If it's 110 degrees outside, do you stay out in the sun? Or are you like one of these people like you're always in an optimal situation with all your equipment? You're not putting yourself in positions because you have to. Like I don't stay out in the rain anymore. Like I mean, I that's why I got away from leather holsters because I'd be out working and I'd be out in the rain all night, and then it would be it'd be hot and be raining and we're soaked. And then like you go into these buildings and they're running air conditioning, and so all of a sudden now it's really cold. Then you go back out in the rain, and then like you do all this, and it's 12, 14, 16-hour day. You go to bed, you get up, your shit is still wet. Your holster, you pulled your gun out of the holster, but the holster's still wet from yesterday. You got to put that wet ass holster back on and fucking head out again. And it like I mean
Yep.
I've lived that. It's because I didn't choose to do that. It was like, well, I got to go back to fucking work. And then
Yeah.
so as long as you're honest, try to be honest with your self assessments as to what what you're doing. Like you just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. So
what
and
you're
that's where.
saying, sorry.
No, go
Uh,
ahead. What you're saying?
so what you're saying is I should take my hypocritical ass and my O-light and go sit in the corner.
Hey, look. Let me tell you something. All right, we got, we posted
I
about the
gave you that
Olight.
one.
We posted, I will see your Olight. We posted about it. Everyone's got an opinion on a flashlight. I just kind of stick with Surefire. I don't claim to know a whole lot about them. I just, stay with what I stay. I'm not like a light nerd. I will see your Olight and I will raise you, my good sir, Ryobi Tools. Because I posted that nail gun, and that spun out of control real fucking quick. And it's like, holy shit. Yeah, damn. My Ryobi tools apparently are gonna fucking, I don't know what they're gonna do. I guess they're gonna get me killed on the job site.
Yeah.
I don't know what, get killed on the streets and get killed on the job site.
So
Hmm.
I run Streamlight on my work stuff, but there's a lot of guys starting to mess with the O-lights around here, and the price point's good. It's like, I get one to play with. It can be a good range toy. What I just got the new O-light angled grip with the built-in rechargeable light. Would I put it on a work carbine? No. Will I put it on my Sunday afternoon dink around carbine? Yeah. For what I got in it, if it takes a shit, in a year, no big deal. Uh, if it's a good coon dispatcher for, the varmints and such we have problems with around here, great. It was worth
Okay,
60
I got
bucks.
nervous there for a minute. I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, what? What? No,
Oh, I have
I'm
a
just.
horrible raccoon problem.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. Well, you looked at the overhead when I gave you my address, and you're like, yeah, we can't see your house because you live in the triple canopy jungle.
Yeah.
That comes with more raccoons than you can shake a stick at. So the wife made some bird feeders and puts them out in the side yard. And I'm like, I don't know how well that's going to work. Well, the next day, two of the bird feeders are completely missing. One's on the ground, broke all to hell, and there's one still hanging that has a little bit of bird feed left in it.
Came through like a gang.
Somehow, this became my fault. So we figured
Oh.
it. We figured out because she puts them all back. She goes and gets two more to replace the ones that we still haven't found. Cobbles the other one back together, and she was all proud of this because she made the hangers and ruined 10 of my bits, screwing the deck screws in, and they're but she's proud of them, bless her heart, and they work.
But it
Uh,
was Milwaukee, so you could get it. You could use
DeWalt, DeWalt,
lifetime
DeWalt,
warranty.
DeWalt.
Oh,
We don't
okay,
do that red
okay,
stuff.
all right,
Uh,
okay. It's like fucking tractor colors. Oh God.
we're like, what the? Probably a raccoon. Well, the next night after she got everything put back together, right about dusk, here comes a raccoon tricky trotting like nobody can see him across my patio, headed right for the feeders. So I thought, well, that's the culprit. Right, get up in the morning and the bird feeders are trashed, and somehow again it's my fault. So if it's my fault, I got to fix the problem, right? Well, the bird feeder is about 10 yards from the side kitchen window. And I had a little AR pistol with a red dot and a flashlight on it.
Oh fuck, dude, they'd probably break the glass for concussion.
So now, me being the smart guy I am and don't want to get an ass chewing for more bird feeders, before sundown, I opened up the window. Oh, shit, there's a screen on it. No problem. We never have this window open anyway, so I take my pocket knife out and I put about a little 1-inch slit in the screen so I can stick the barrel out. Gets to be dark. It's like, oh, okay, I'll go over there and poke that little AR pistol through there. Click the flashlight. There's 3 raccoons on the bird feeder poles. So I put the dot on one, squeezed it off, blew the screen completely off the frame. The most important lesson in this, if you're gonna launch a 5.56 from inside the house, you should probably tell your wife before you do it, because all 4 dogs were on her lap and 2 of them were Belgian Malinois. I missed the raccoon. The screen's laying out in the yard. And somehow this is all my fault again. So then it's like, maybe I'll try live trapping them. The best bait for live trapping raccoons is marshmallows.
Really?
So, oh yeah, because if you put like cat food or tuna or anything like that in there, you'll catch possums. Possums love that. For whatever reason, possums won't eat the marshmallows. Raccoons love them because they're sweet and they're easy to see because they're white. Well,
It's good
go
to
out the
know.
next morning, trap's been tripped, marshmallows are gone, no raccoon, no bird feeders again either. I go through about 3 nights of this. Can't
It's
figure out
Bigfoot. Oh shit.
figure out what the hell's going on.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna
have I'm gonna have AI draw art for this episode. Bigfoot sitting there with a bag of marshmallows eating them. That's
so got smart and basically sat in the kitchen waiting. And I put a motion detector light out there, so when the raccoon showed up, light would come on. What these damn
yeah.
raccoons were doing was reaching through the live trap, pulling the damn marshmallows out, sitting there right by the live trap, eating the marshmallows till they were gone, and then leaving. It's like, well, hell, that ain't gonna work. So then we got the 590 out. It's like, we're just gonna go big. Put some 5-shot in it, and that 590, I don't know if you remember the pictures of that I sent you, but it had the Surefire 4-end light built in. Now that worked good. I'm up to 28 raccoons with that sumbitch right now.
Hmm.
Right out the kitchen window. About just turn all the lights off, wait for the sun to go down. Every time there's a commercial break, just get up, stick that 590 out, key the light, boom. 3 times now I've got 2 with 1 shot. That's how
Dang.
bad the raccoons are here. Nobody hunts them anymore because the fur market took a shit.
Hmm. Yeah, the only time I've ever seen raccoons around here is on the deer cams and back behind the range. I mean, they're obviously
Mm-hmm.
back there. I've never seen anything up here. So I just don't know if we don't. I mean, obviously we have them, but I've never seen any. But I wonder if the coyotes get into them as well.
I don't know because we got coyotes and bobcats because we've got so many wild turkeys, but we can put corn out. We just can't hunt over corn, so we have to pull it before the season for deer.
Hmm.
And I've got trail cam pictures with like 20 and 25 raccoons on one feeder. I moved it up the tree a little bit. Yeah, I've got a picture where one coon is standing on the shoulders of another coon, scooping corn out of the feeder funnel onto the ground.
You got to be shitting me.
No, I'll tell you, if humans were half as smart as dumpster pandas, we'd have world peace, end famine, and everything else in the world.
Meta world peace. Oh, I don't know if I guess I told you. I think I was talking to you that day. I'll say it on pod. We have bobcats around here. Like, I've seen tracks and, there's been attacks on goats and there's been, everyone's all keyed up about the bobcats. I finally saw a bobcat during the day in the back of the John 1911 range.
Oh, cool.
It was, yeah, it was moving too. And I was like, that is a fast, big, brown house cat. And I'm like, that is not a fucking house cat. That was like, that is a bobcat. It wasn't that big. Like it wasn't as big as like the biggest bobcats you could see. Like I would imagine it might be young. I've never actually seen a bobcat in real life before, but I visually have seen one now
Mhm.
on our property in the back, and we have a lot of turkey. Or we did. Like I know the turkey's been down a little, so. And as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, the day I saw the bobcat was the same day I saw a bunch of turkey.
Yep. That is
So
probably their favorite food. And this time of year, the hatchlings are starting to run around now, so it's easy pickings. If you have turkeys, you have bobcats.
yeah.
That's just the general rule.
There's talk that they may bring in a season for them.
Yeah.
I know that there's been issues in other parts of the area. The DNR has been considering it. So I don't like. How do you hunt? How do you hunt bobcats? You have to set out baits. I don't even know.
Call them like you do coyotes.
You can call a bobcat?
Uh-huh.
Oh, you call them. You okay? Not
Like
like a
predator
coyote.
calls.
You call
Yeah,
a predator call,
you don't
not like
sit
a
in the
turkey
coyote perch
call.
going, here, kitty, kitty, kitty.
Sorry, it's late. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. Meow.
No, use the they'll come into predator calls because I mean they're predators of opportunity, so they'll eat rabbits, birds. Basically, they're nest raiders. But the wild turkey is probably the dumbest animal on the face of the earth. The only reason they're hard to hunt is they lead their entire life with one foot on the panic button at all times. They have no natural curiosity, but they're big lumbering birds, so when they do fly, it takes them a little bit to get off the ground, and they're not really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So bobcats can stalk them pretty easy. But we see a lot of them when we're turkey hunting and we're calling turkeys. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, here comes a bobcat. There's a decoy that's going to get destroyed. But the hunting season for us, we didn't have a hunting season on them forever. But as the turkey population took off in Iowa, the bobcats followed. And finally, now there's enough of a population in Iowa, my home state where I grew up, that they have a season and a quota, and basically anybody can hunt them. You telecheck them in, and then each morning you check and you see how many are left in the quota. And and
Oh,
then if the quota closes that day,
you're
then the
done.
season's over. Nebraska's got a season on them. I'm not sure exactly what it is because I hadn't seen a lot of bobcats. Now this spring, I've got 3 different bobcats on the property I've seen, so I may have to look into what the sea. It's in the fall and winter, so I may look into that and try and call one. I've got a beautiful red phased bobcat running the property right now.
How big is
Uh,
he?
he's big. Uh, oh, if I had to guess, I would say he's probably 40 pounds. I mean, he's big.
Holy shit.
When he pops out of the timber and walks across the lane, there is no mistaking what he is from a distance, even.
Yeah. The bobcat I saw, I mean, it had a lot more muscle than a regular cat. He
Mhm.
was bigger, but he wasn't really considerably like he was. There's house cats bigger than he is, so he or she was really young.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet the bobcat I saw didn't weigh. No, no way this bobcat weighed 15 pounds.
Yeah, that sounds like a yearling. That's a young one. I'd
40
say
pounds.
around here, probably say an average 3-year-old male is probably in that 25-pound range. And
Yeah,
I
the
mean, this
okay.
this red phased one, I mean, he sticks out. And I'd never seen a red phased bobcat before. So the first time I saw him when he popped out and crossed the lane, I actually thought it was a coyote until he got turned perfectly broadside to me, and I saw the little stubby tail, and it's like, what's a bobcat? And then since then, he's come out close enough and darted across the road. It's like, that's definitely a bobcat. But he's every bit as big as my Brittany. And my Brittany's like 40, 45 pounds.
Have you ever had or heard of any instances of a bobcat attacking people out there?
You hear stories about it, but it's always a friend of a neighbor's uncle's brother's cousin type deal. I
Yeah.
I I don't know anybody that I can say I know Bob, and he's still got the scars. There's just that anecdotal story that goes around.
What does a bobcat sound like? Like, do they sound like? Because I saw like what was it? One of these videos, like a guy, I don't know, it was like guy had like a cheetah or something,
Mm-hmm.
it was like in Africa, but it was like, I don't know, like they were raising it or whatever. And this was, I mean, it's a big cat and it's going meow, meow, as guys petting it, it's going meow. And I'm just like, that is crazy. I mean, it sounded just like, a house cat when I was growing up.
Well, you
And,
ever heard two tomcats fighting over a female cat in heat?
yeah.
That's kind of what it sounds like.
Oh, that's scary. Like
Yeah,
hearing
it's
that, no, if
when
you're in
when
the
you hear
woods
it,
and you're not
the first time you
expecting
hear
that,
it, you'll never ever mistake it for a house cat. You oh, that's a bobcat.
wow, because that would sound like a little monster just going
Yeah,
crazy. Okay,
yeah. When I'm turkey
okay.
hunting, I check six fairly often because
That's
you
right, because
never know
most people, you turkey hunt, you sit down on the ground,
on the
right?
ground. Yep.
Ew, I don't know. You can't turkey hunt from a deer stand because they'll see it.
You could probably do it. You can hunt them from a deer blind. I hunt them out of a pop up blind. That's what a lot. It depends on your hunting style. Guys that run and gun for them, they usually just sit against a tree. Uh, I know my property well enough. I just know where they'll pitch down and can generally call them in after they get unhooked from the first hand. So I just set a pop up blind and settle in for the morning. Uh, but you never know from what direction the bobcat will be coming from. But they they hone in on the yelps just like an old boss Tom Gobbler does.
Okay,
You
that's
just don't hear
interesting.
them coming. It's just all of a sudden, you look up. It's like, oh, I'm gonna lose a decoy, and they just swoop in and it's gone.
I mean, they let it go, right?
Eventually, it's like, this doesn't taste right, and they spit it out on the way. But they'll destroy them. They'll snap
Okay.
because they're just stuck in the ground with a stake. So they get up close enough, and to where they're going to launch, and they just launch and grab it and try and run off with it. And sometimes the stake will catch and pulls it out of their mouth. Sometimes because I just use the little cheap foam decoys. They're hollow in the middle. Uh, so they'll drop them, down, 10, 15 yards down, but usually they tear them when they pull them off the stake.
Hmm. Okay. I am going to hold on. Let's go and do the police blotter, and we'll go ahead and call this one for the night. So I've got three here for you, and the last one is going to require me to send you a picture. So the first one is it's kind of a international whatever story, but it's also a police blotter story. It has come out that the Russians had a plot. Have you ever heard of a German arms manufacturer called Rheinmetall?
No, I have
Rheinmetall?
not. Uh-uh.
They made shit I think for the Nazis. Like Rheinmetall, they make artillery. I think they make the Leopard tank. Like they make all kinds of shit in Germany, and
Okay.
the Russians had a plot to kill the CEO of Rheinmetall. The guy's name is uh, uh, what's his name? Not it's Armin. Yeah, Armin Popperger. And so apparently now they've noticed that the CEO, he's been running around. He's got full security. He goes to like a soccer game in Germany, and he arrives with armed security around him, provided by the state, like Westphalia, whatever it's called, whatever state in Germany he lives in. And people started noticing, and they're like, "Why is this guy getting security? What's going on?" Like, there's very few people that get this. And it's because the Russians had decided they were going to kill him. It's kind of like because they've been sending weapons to Ukraine, and actually Rheinmetall now wants to build some kind of factory in Ukraine, probably in Western Ukraine, to make shit in Ukraine for the Ukrainians. So that's the first. That is the first story. The second story comes out of the Philippines, and let's see here. It goes: furious wife hacks off her husband's penis when he calls out another woman's name during sex. And the pictures, violation of Article 262 of RPC, mutilation, July 6, 2024. So she was charged with mutilation. And there's pictures of the knife and of pieces of penis in the pictures. And the furious wife hacked off her husband's penis after he allegedly said another woman's name during sex. The unnamed couple, who were from Baguio City, Philippines, were making love at their home last week when the husband allegedly moaned another woman's name. His raging wife, 55, waited for him to fall asleep before allegedly grabbing a 10-inch long knife from the kitchen and chopping off his penis. Police shared images which show the severed tip and part of the shaft lying lifelessly on the mattress with specks of blood. Yeah, the Philippine police don't give a shit. They're gonna Lorena Bobbitt pictures never made what they're showing here.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, spokesman for the Baguio City Police Station said allegedly the reason was jealousy. Officer recovered the bloody knife and a severed penis from the scene. Local media reported the doctors tried reattaching the phallus, but were unsuccessful. So, okay. This third one is, let me check, because I have to send you a photograph, because I have to coordinate this with the listener. So do you have your text messages ready to receive a picture when I send it?
Yep.
Via text message, because I'm going to read you the story. This is the piece de resistance of the police blotter. Then I'm going to send you the image. Headline is Philadelphia. Dollar Tree ejaculation suspect surrenders to cops. And so a Philly man was accused of masturbating on a woman's leg inside of a Dollar Tree store has surrendered after the cops say the rapper Meek Mill launched a manhunt for him because I guess this woman, there's a video of this woman and she's running out of the store and there's a guy running in front of her. She's got her video camera and she's screaming through the store. She's screaming and she goes, "He nutted on me. He nutted on me." And then, he's diving over stuff and she's chasing him. "He nutted on me." And then they make it out in the parking lot and he gets away. And then she like collapses and she shows the camera looking down at her leg and she goes, she's crying. She's like, "He nutted on me." And it's like, what the hell? Like, logistically, how was he able to do this and on this woman? And then she's, this huge scene, okay? So this gets reported, police show up, whatever, the Meek Mill, the rapper, I'm so outraged and whatever, and it's like, we're going to find this guy, our communities and whatever, it's all fine, because, it is the Dollar Tree. So police, the first thing to do, do you have any surveillance footage that you could possibly share? And they go, "Why, yes, we do. Let's go ahead and go through it." So the police grab a still image of the suspect, and I'm sending you the picture now. And I want you to tell me what is written on the suspect's t-shirt.
So there's a candy cane, a giant candy cane on the t-shirt, and the caption on the t-shirt says, "It's not going to lick itself."
I was dying. Apparently not. So I was dying reading this blotter. So this wraps up episode 342 of the John1911 Podcast. If you want to see any more stories or pictures of links of anything we discussed, please go to the website at John1911.com. It's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good night.
Have a good night.